Bearing in mind extension of time, we place SBI on notice that this court may be inclined to proceed against it for willful disobedience of the judgment if SBI does not comply with the directions of this court as set out in its judgment dated 15 February 2024 by the timelines indicated in this order. Full stop. The miscellaneous application for extension of time shall accordingly stand dismissed.
But your lordship say the details shall include date of purchase of void bond, no problem. But the moment I have to give the detail of the name with the bond number, that is taking time because we have deliberately put these in two silos. If your lordships want only the details of who purchased the bonds, we can give that straight away.
Mr. Sarve, our judgment is dated 15th of February 2024.
Yes,
we are now on the 11th of March.
Yes.
In the last 26 days, what extent of matching has been done by you? What steps have you taken in the last 26 days? There are applications absolutely silent on that.
I have full details of who purchased the bond, but that's put in one silo of information. I have full details of where the money came from, which is in the second silo, and I have a complete detail of which political party tendered how many bonds and who has been paid how much. That's an easy ask. That can be given straight away. The problem is, Manoj, I have to now put the name of the purchaser, which is in the first sealed packet, and these are all physically kept. They were not put into the banking system. And each form will have to be taken out, the name checked, that name now correlated to the payment detail, and the payment detail correlated to the bond, and finally that's where the bond number gets generated, and then we can connect as to which political party who has given that money.
Okay, that's what I asked Mr. Sarve.
But Manoj, I have to
correlated with the purchaser and the political party.
Manoj, para 76 does suggest that. Would you not shift the seat for a moment?
Don't go by what is suggested. Whatever you wanted to speak, just spoken in black and white.
The only problem which we are now trying to collate the information and create it because we are having to actually reverse the whole process. The standard operating process we had put in made sure that there was no connection between the name of the purchaser in our core banking system and the bond number. Because we as a bank were told that this is supposed to be secret. If a handful of people also within the bank had access to this is the kind of information we should have.
You have the details.
No, I have the details. I'm sorry. I'm not saying it's not there.
1 minute, Mr. Salve. Now, paragraph 10, you specifically say that all the purchases details have been kept in a sealed cover.
Yes.
The main branch of the applicant bank.
Correct.
You just have to simply open up the sealed cover and collect the names and give the details.
Now, when the purchases were happening, we divided the information. The name is kept at one place and the purchase is recorded at another place.
But ultimately, everything was sent to the Mumbai Central Main Branch. All issuing branches, for the political parties, there are only 24. Actually, there are 4. But insofar as the purchasers are concerned, everything has been remitted back to the Mumbai Central Main Branch.
And 301.
May it please, Manoj.
Yes.
Manoj, I appear for the State Bank.
Yes.
And Manoj, we need a little more time to comply with your lordship's order. If your lordship is pleased to turn to page 76 of my application, Manoj. Your lordship will find the operative order set out.
That will be, yes, that's right.
Para 221.
Right.
Where my lords had said that in view of the discussion, the following directions are issued. The issuing bank shall herewith stop issuance of electoral bonds. Well, that's been done. State Bank of India shall submit details of electoral bonds purchased since the interim order of the court of 12th April 2019 till date to the ECI. Yeah. The details shall include the date of purchase of each electoral bond. That is no problem. The name of the purchaser of the bond and the denomination of the electoral bond purchased. The SBI shall submit details of political parties which have received contribution through the electoral bonds since the interim order of the court of 12th April till the date to the ECI. That should be no problem. SBI must disclose details of each electoral bond encashed by the political parties, which will include date of encashment and denomination of encashment of each bond. The only problem which we are now trying to collate the information and create is because we are having to actually reverse the whole process. The standard operating process we had put in made sure that there was no connection between the name of the purchaser in our core banking system and the bond number. Because my lord, we as the bank were told that this is supposed to be secret. Now, my lord, if a handful of people also within the bank had access to this is the kind of information which would have leaked. So, my lord,
Mr. Salve,
yes,
if you see your application,
yes, my lord.
if we start at para 10, paras 10 to 14 of your application are the key to your application.
Lordship, please.
What you say in para 10 is that it is submitted that donor details were kept. I'm sorry, just give me a moment. You have it? Yeah, that's the application. The MA.
IA 57604.
It is submitted that donor detail.
Yes, my lord.
Just one. It is submitted that donor details were kept in a sealed cover at the designated branch, and all such sealed covers were deposited in the main branch of the applicant bank, which is located in Mumbai.
Yes, my lord.
On the other end, each political party was required to maintain a designated account in any of the 29 authorized branches. It was only in this account that electoral bonds received by that party could be deposited and redeemed. At the time of redemption, the original bond, the pay-in slip, would be stored in a sealed cover and sent to the SBI Mumbai main branch. So what you are saying is that donor details were all sent to the SBI main branch. Redemption
Correct.
details were all sent to the the same branch, the SBI Central Main Branch in Mumbai.
Yes, my lord.
Now 12. It can thus be noted that both sets of information were being stored independently of each other. Thus, to rematch them would be a task requiring significant amount of effort. In order to make available donor information, the date of issue of each bond will have to be checked and matched against the date of purchase by a particular donor. This exercise would only deal with the first silo of information. These bonds were redeemed by political parties in their designated bank accounts. Accordingly, this information would then have to be matched against the bond redemption information that makes up the second silo. It is submitted that the retrieval of information from each silo and the procedure of matching the information of one silo to the other would be a time-consuming exercise. The details are stored separately. Some of the details, such as bonds number, are stored digitally, while the other sets of details, such as name of purchaser, KYC, are stored physically. The purpose of not storing all details digitally was to ensure that it cannot be gathered easily to achieve the object of the scheme. And then finally, para 14. In that regard, it is further submitted that this court has directed for making public the donor information to the date of its interim order, 12th April 19, to the date of the judgment. In that time, 22,217 electoral bonds were used for making donations to various political parties. Redeemed bonds were deposited to Mumbai main branch by the authorized branches at the end of each phase in sealed envelopes. Coupled with the fact that two different information silos existed, this would mean that a total of 44,434 information set would have to be decoded, compiled, and compared. Now, if you see the directions which we have issued at page 76,
My lord.
we have not told you to do the matching exercise. We have asked you for a plain disclosure. Therefore, the ground on which you seek an extension of time to make the disclosure does not accord with the directions in the judgment at all. The judgment doesn't tell you to do that
No, my lord,
exercise.
I'll tell my lord what we understand. If that is not so, then of course there's no problem. If your lordship is pleased to turn to para 221.
But then you simply comply with the judgment.
No, please turn to para 221. Your lordship's judgment?
Page 76, right?
76, yes. SBI shall submit details of electoral bonds purchased since the interim order of the court. My lord, no problem. No problem. The details shall include the date of purchase of each electoral bond, the name of the purchaser of the bond, and the denomination of the electoral bond purchase. Now, my lord, when the purchases were happening, we divided the information. The name is kept at one place and the purchase is recorded at another place.
But ultimately, everything was sent to the Mumbai Central Main Branch. All issuing branches, for the political parties, there are only 24. Actually, there are 4. But insofar as the purchasers are concerned, everything has been remitted back to the Mumbai Central Main Branch.
Except, I'm sorry, my lord, your lordship is right. It is not kept at one place because the reason, if your lordship just see then earlier para, my lord was pleased to see para 10. If your lordship just sees para 5 and 7, that's why the problem has arisen in this case. Para 5 said central government framed the electoral bond scheme, which provided that the information furnished by the buyer shall be treated as confidential, and the bank shall not be disclosed by any authority for any purpose. Now, my lord, we knew this is sensitive information, so a physical procedure was devised. You sort of did a KYC and you kept the name in that. And once that was cleared, then only the bond number was cleared, and then the bond number was used for further purchases. The money came to people who didn't know who the money was, who was the real name of the purchaser. They just knew this was a cleared account, so it came into a bond payment account, and from the bond payment account, it was given. And it was done precisely, Manoj, to prevent this kind of gossip coming out saying so-and-so has purchased so much. Now, Manoj, para 7, if you see the SOP, because this is not something we've done now, Manoj, this is the original SOP, said no details.
Ultimately, even your FAQs, which were shown to us during the course of the hearing,
Yes.
the FAQs indicate that for every purchase, you have to have a separate KYC.
Yes, we have that. We have that.
Therefore, it's very clear that every time somebody made a purchase, a KYC was mandated. That one set of documents, namely the electoral bond application form, KYC documents, citizenship documents, and pay-in slips.
Manoj, there's no issue. We have the details.
For one
Please don't
particular-
misunderstand me.
Therefore, you have the details.
No, I have the details. I'm sorry. I'm not saying it's not there.
One minute, Mrs. Salve. Now, paragraph 10, you specifically say that all the purchasers' details have been kept in a sealed cover.
Yes.
In the main branch of the applicant bank.
Correct, Manoj.
Just have to simply open up the sealed cover and
Manoj,
collate the names and give the details.
Manoj,
As far
what
as
is
paragraph 11 is concerned, you're saying that the Dhoni's details are being kept in a sealed cover, envelope in a sealed cover. Open up the sealed cover and give the details. In fact,
tell Manoj where the only bit of information.
if I'm not mistaken, the EC was asked to file an affidavit, which you in a sealed affidavit or details in a sealed envelope, which we have not opened. With regard to the donor details and other details during the course of hearing, which they may have filed.
Manoj, my problem is this, Manoj. With respect, in fact, just responding to what my lord has said, I have full details of who purchased the bond, but that's put in one silo of information. I have full details of where the money came from, which is in a second silo, and I have a complete detail of which political party tendered how many bonds and who has been paid how much. That's a easy ask. That can be given straight away. The problem is, Manoj, I have to now put the name of the purchaser, which is in the first sealed packet, and these are all physically kept. They were not put into the banking system. Each form will have to be taken out, the name checked, that name now correlated to the payment detail, and the payment detail correlated to the bond, and finally that's where the bond number gets generated, and then we can connect as to which political party who has given that money. Now,
That has not been asked, Mr. Sarve.
But Manoj, I have to give
direction to correlate it with the purchaser and the political party.
Manoj, para 76 does suggest that. Would your lordship just see it for a moment? If you lordship.
Don't go by what is suggested. Whatever you wanted to speak, we have spoken in black and white.
No, in that, Manoj, your lordships, please see that sentence. I'm not, Manoj, we have no desire at all to try and expand our own job, Manoj. Please see page 76. This by itself is creating difficulties. Manoj, your lordship say the detail shall include date of purchase of a bond, no problem. But the moment I have to give the detail of the name with the bond number, that is taking time because we had deliberately put these in two silos. If your lordships want only the details of who purchased the bonds, we can give that straight away.
Mr. Sarve, our judgment is dated 15th of February 2024.
Yes,
we are now on the 11th of March.
Yes.
In the last 26 days, what extent of matching has been done by you? What steps have you taken in the last 26 days? The application is absolutely silent on that.
We can put a detailed affidavit on that, my lord,
No, we
because
don't
I
want an
know,
affidavit. It should have been disclosed in the affidavit.
I agree, my lord. I agree.
State Bank of India, which is coming to us, we expect that there should be a degree of candor on the part of the State Bank of India, that this is what the work which we have done. The work is at this stage. We need an extension of time to carry out the balance of the exercise which remains.
Lord, we have sought to explain the problem and the work is going on. Because, my lord, each form, it'll have to be form by form.
It is going on to what extent you have reached?
My lord, work is going on form by form. They will, if you're not on, I can give the exact detail of how many we have covered and how many more we can cover. But they did a rough calculation, my lord, it will take about 3 months more. Because I'll tell my lord, my other concern. I have another big concern, my lord. I cannot make a mistake in this. I'll get sued by the donor. I'll get sued by people because I cannot by mistake say A got it when B had it.
Highest court of this country. So where is the question of you being sued?
I'm sorry, my lord.
Whatever you are doing under the directions of the highest court of.
No, my lord. If I make a mistake, if I say Mr. X got it instead of Mr. Y got it in a hurry to give the numbers, I could create havoc there, my lord, because ultimately.
As we take it, Mr. Salvi, you are accepting that there's no difficulty in giving names of the donors who purchased the bonds and the amount they purchased the bonds. You have got no difficulty in giving details of the political parties who have purchased the particular bonds. The only difficulty is matching the purchased bond with that. But 26 days, you must have carried out at least some, say, 10,000 bonds you have been able to collate, 5,000 bonds you have been able to collate.
Quite frankly, what I saw, they were struggling with it. They were making charts which we saw were not matching. They don't. I'll tell you what has happened. No, I'll tell you candidly what has happened.
If I'm not mistaken, it was pointed out to us that the bonds had some number which under some instrument they were able to.
Yes. But that number.
That's all has to be done.
That number is not to be found in the application for purchase or in the first set of documents. The problem is that number, when number was generated, that number has been scrambled and put elsewhere, and that number has been kept secret. Now, putting that will require tracing it into each transaction. At the stage of the interim order, and I'm saying what happened at that time. The kind of information which your lordship asked was a macro information. So that is no problem.
In pursuance of the interim order,
yes,
Election Commission of India has filed, details before us.
Or whatever they have.
In separate silos, if we can use that expression.
Yes.
The ministry has placed that, in a secured custody with us. We'll direct them to open it here right now, because since we were deciding a point of constitutional validity, we didn't consider it necessary either during the course of the hearing or thereafter. So we can ask them to open it, and we'll ask the Election Commission of India to divulge whatever there is, and we'll ask SBI to then divulge what we have asked them to do.
Yes, we'll do it. We'll send it to
before us.
Your lordship.
Mr. Sharma, whatever has been placed by you before us, in compliance with the judgment, we will direct that to be opened right now.
And your lordship directed us to give it to the ECI. So we'll give it to the ECI, or your lordship want us to file it directly in court? I think better through the ECI.
No, you, Mr. Salvi, you comply with the order of the court.
To give it to the ECI.
Whatever ECI has placed in the court.
Already.
We will direct that to be opened. We'll ask our court to make a copy of it, a digitized copy for the safekeeping of the court. And then we will return it back to the rest. We'll return it back to ECI for them to upload it on their website.
But what ECI has already, there's no problem. We will give to the ECI as in the time, if you're not to give us 3 months, we'll go and give it to the ECI. And they, as and when they get it, they can upload it. We want to make sure we get every bond number right, every donor right. Because this otherwise is going to create havoc. For today, for donors will come and say, this is not my bond, I did not purchase this, you put the wrong number on my bond, I did not give
to. There's no question of that. Once he's given the KYC, he's given the details, you also have the application. The application will be having the amount.
No, I'm sorry, Marat. I'm sorry. My concern is he purchased bond number X. I by mistake, I put his number as purchasing bond number Y. Now, X may have gone to political party A, Y may have gone to political party B.
Why will that happen, Mr.
Because,
Sarvit?
my lord, I'll tell my lord
We are
why,
dealing
because
with
he
a
haven't kept the.
number one bank in the country. We do expect them to be able to handle this.
No, not expect to be handled. We were told, make sure that this doesn't leak. So, my lord, the way we stored the information, the bond number did not get into the core banking system. If we had been told keep information on this basis, we would have devised our systems accordingly. If we had kept it like that, my lord, any senior bank officer could have found out bond numbers and the whole thing would have been out in public domain. Who has how much, all these secrecies would have gone to the witness.
Assistant General Manager files an affidavit in support of the application to the Supreme Court for modification and order of a constitution bench. It's a very serious matter when you ask for modification of an order.
I accept that, my lord. I accept that.
An
I
assistant
accept that.
general
And we have-
manager files an affidavit and tells us that, look, I'm finding it difficult. The information is maintained in two silos.
No, my lord, he has filed the affidavit because he's the man in the spot. He's the person who has to do this job. He's the level at which the accounts are kept. He said you must have the person who knows what he's talking about. So, my lord, give us a little time, we'll do it, my lord. Ask for time.
While your lordship is doing that, let me just show one or two things from
Let's.
all the.
Not mistaken, earlier also you had given one envelope. At the time when the interim order was passed.
My lord, so I'm sorry, my lord. So that nothing is lost in translation.
Then we'll follow that.
My lord, I'm sorry, my lord. I just wanted one clarification as we understand. Lord, may I say one thing, Malad? If your lordship turns to your lordship's operative order, there's one way which we may be able to resolve this. In B, your lordship say electoral bonds purchased, the detail will include the detail of purchase of electoral bond, the name of purchaser and the denomination. This is one part, Malad. This we have. We can get the, we can get this in 2-3 weeks. C, Malad, I was saying something.
Yes, Mr. Alden.
But if your lordship turn, there may be a way out around this. But if your lordship turns to your lordship's order, para 221, page 76.
Yes.
There are two parts, B and C. If you don't have to create a bridge between the two, then Malad, within 3 weeks, we can give everything.
So we'll
Malad,
dictate an order. We'll
may
dictate
I,
an order
Malad,
because let
I'm
us
sorry,
do
may
it
I-
in the court itself instead of.
I wanted to just
serving it.
make one respectful suggestion, Malad.
Yes.
If your lordship sees para 221,
Yes.
Malad, if B and C are not to be matched, then Malad, we can give the information in 3 weeks. Let me explain how. If we, on one hand, is the person who purchased the electoral bond and the number of bonds he purchased, that Malad, in 2-3 weeks, we can get all the figures. In the second, the bonds encashed by political parties, which includes the date of encashment and denomination. That details we have, Malad, that we can give. In 3 weeks, we'll put it all together.
You
If we
require
have to,
3 weeks for what, Mr. Sarvi?
Malad, these are all in because the accounts are separate, the payment has come separately and the name was kept separately. We'll marry the two and give it.
The political parties have already given the details of the encashments made by them.
Correct, Malad. So that in any case is there. As far as B is concerned, we can
First
give it.
details also are already available with you.
I'm sorry, Malad.
You've
Your
been
Worship.
working on with regard to the purchasers, the donors and the details of amount they have purchased. These details are already available.
Yes, so that we can give, Malad. We'll just put that figures together and give. The trouble is, Malad, we understood B and C meant that we had to give a complete correlation of who bought how much was received, how much was given to whom, and which bank, or rather which party encashed it from which bank. That bridge was creating that difficulty, Malad. If you don't have to give that matching.
Right. What we'll do is we'll dictate an order.
Yes.
Before your lordship dictates.
After we dictate it, if there's something which remains, you can tell us. By a judgment dated
15th February.
by a judgment dated 15 February 2024, comma, this court declared the electoral bond scheme and the provisions of the Finance Act 2017, which amended the provisions of the Representation of the People Act 1951 and the Income Tax Act 1961 unconstitutional on the ground that the non-disclosure of information regarding the funding of political parties is violative of the right to information of citizens under Article 19, bracket 1, bracket A of the Constitution. Full stop. The amendments which were introduced by the Finance Act 2017 to the provisions of the Companies Act 2013, permitting unlimited funding of political parties by corporate entities were held to be arbitrary and violative of Article 14 of the Constitution. Full stop. Next para. In order to give full effect to the judgment which was rendered by the Constitution Bench, this court directed the State Bank of India, footnote SBI, which was the authorized bank to deal with electoral bonds under the electoral bond scheme, to submit details of the electoral bonds purchased by the contributors and redeemed by political parties between 12 April 2019, into brackets, the date on which an interim order was passed by this court directing the Election Commission of India, footnote ECI, to collect details of the contributions, bracket, till 15 February 2024, bracket, the date of the judgment, full stop. This court directed SBI to submit the following details by 6 March 2024 to the ECI. A, details of each electoral bond purchased, including the date of purchase, the name of the purchaser, and the denomination of the electoral bond, semicolon, and B, details of each electoral bond redeemed by political parties, including the date of encashment and the denomination of the electoral bond. Stop. The ECI was directed to collate the information which was to be submitted by the SBI and publish it on its website by 13 March 2024. Full stop. The directions of this court are extracted below, colon, आप copy कर लीजिए, para 219 at page 76. Para.
Lord, it's 221, page 76 of the application.
The SCC has a, all right, आप ऐसा कर लीजिए, ये पैरा ऐसा है 219, 221 जो भी आप ले लीजिए. It may be on SCC online, it's 221. The para
Yes.
begins with the words, in view of our discussion above.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, the
That's-
following directions are issued, and the last word which you will copy down is the purchaser's account. Okay. SBI filed a miscellaneous application before this court 2 days before the expiry of the deadline, seeking an extension of time until 30 June 2024 for complying with the directions. Full stop. The petitioners before this court dash Association for Democratic Reforms and the Communist Party of India bracket Marxist bracket dash instituted contempt proceedings, instituted a petition invoking the contempt jurisdiction of this court against SBI for an alleged willful disobedience of the order of this court. Full stop. In support of the application by SBI, I've heard Mr. Harish N. Salve, learned senior counsel. Full stop. Mr. Salve submitted that the information which was which was received by the SBI was maintained in two separate silos and were maintained with the utmost secrecy so as to fulfill the core purpose of the electoral bond scheme. Full stop. Learned counsel submitted that if the disclosure is to be made of the information required to be submitted by SBI to ECI in the separate silos which are referred to in B and C of the operative directions, there would be no difficulty in SBI doing so, which, it has been indicated, would be completed within 3 weeks. However, it has been submitted that the difficulty of SBI arose since it construed the directions of this court in requiring it to carry out a matching exercise to match the donor details, the donor and bond details with the corresponding details pertaining to encashment by political parties. Full stop. While evaluating the submission which has been made on behalf of SBI, a reference to some of the key aspects of the scheme would be in order at this stage. Full stop. Clause 7(4) of the electoral bond scheme stipulates that the information furnished by the buyer of an electoral bond shall be treated as confidential by the authorized bank and shall be disclosed only when called upon to do so by a competent court or upon the registration of an offense by a law enforcement agency. Full stop. Thus, in terms of the provisions of the electoral bond scheme itself, SBI is mandated to disclose information when demanded by a court. Full stop. What remains to be seen, what has to be analyzed is whether SBI is justified in seeking an extension of time. Next. SBI seeks an extension of time on the ground that the process of open inverted commas decoding the electoral bonds and matching the donor to the donations into inverted commas complete is a complex and time-consuming exercise. Full stop. To substantiate this argument, SBI has averred that next line, A, information is not available in a digital format. ये underline कर दीजिए. Clause 7.1.2 of the standard operating procedure regarding the sale and redemption of electoral bonds stipulates that, into inverted commas, no details of bond purchaser, including KYC and other details, will be entered in the core banking system, into inverted commas complete. Thus, the details of the purchases of bonds are not available centrally, semicolon. B, the donor details and recipient details are available in two separate silos. ये underline कर लीजिए, colon. The details of the purchasers of the electoral bonds were kept in a sealed cover at the designated branch. These sealed covers were deposited in the main branch of SBI in Mumbai at the end of each phase of the issuance of the electoral bonds. Full stop. The information on the redemption of electoral bonds, into brackets, that is the original bond and the pay-in slip, bracket, were stored in a sealed cover and sent to the SBI, Mumbai branch. Semicolon. C, matching of information in the two silos is a time-consuming process. Underline कर लीजिए, colon. The matching of the information on the purchase and redemption of electoral bonds would be time-consuming since donor information and redemption information is maintained in two distinct silos independent of each other, semicolon. D, there is a large, there is a large number of data sets to decipher, underline, colon, a total of 22,000 odd, I'll give you the figure.
22,217.
A total of 22,217 bonds were purchased between 12 April 2019 and 15 February 2024. Full stop. This would cumulatively add up to 44,434 data sets, since there are two silos of information. In other words, the compilation of this information would be a time-consuming process. Full stop. Next main para. The crux of the submission of the SBI is that the matching of information to ascertain who contributed to which political party is a time-consuming process, since the information is maintained in two separate silos. Full stop. Now, the operative directions which have been issued by this court, as reproduced earlier, the operative directions of this court directed the SBI to disclose the transactions as set out in direction B and direction C extracted above. Let's stop. SBI submits in its application itself that the donor details and redemption details are available, albeit in separate silos. Full stop. In other words, the directions which have been issued by this court require SBI to disclose information which is already available to it. Next para. At this stage, it would be material to refer to the FAQs on electoral bonds published by the SBI, which states that the Know Your Customer documents must be submitted by the purchaser each time that the bond is purchased, irrespective of whether the purchaser has a KYC verified SBI account. Full stop. That is, वहाँ footnote दे दीजिए और उसको FAQ question number 16 judgment से मैं आपको बाद में बताता हूँ कहाँ से लेना है आपको. That is one set of documents, into brackets, the electoral bond application form, KYC documents, and pay in slip, can, bracket complete, can only be used to purchase one electoral bond. Full stop. Contributors who have an SBI account, as well as those who do not, have to submit the electoral bond application, Know Your Customer documentation, and proof of payment through NEFT, check, or demand draft. Full stop. Thus, the details of the electoral bonds which have been purchased and which have been directed to be disclosed by this court are readily available. Next. The FAQ, similarly, the FAQs on electoral bonds published by the SBI with respect to the redemption of bonds states that each political party can only open one current account for electoral bond redemption. Full stop. The current account would be opened by the political party only in 4 authorized branches in Chennai, Kolkata, Mumbai, and New Delhi. Full stop.
There are 29, factually, nothing turns on that.
All right.
There are
29
29
authorized.
designated branches.
29 designated branches.
Yes.
Full stop.
They're in the 4 cities or other places also?
No, all over the country. All over the country, bro. Not in these 4 places.
Thus, information about a political party's encashment of electoral bonds would be stored only in these branches, which would be clearly accessible. Full stop. Slips and other details would have to be, submitted to the main branch. Full stop. There is no dispute about the fact, as there cannot be, that this process was duly followed. Full stop. Together with the application which has been filed by SBI for the extension of time, ADR has filed a contempt petition in which it submits that the information which was directed to be disclosed by this court can easily be disclosed by SBI because of the unique number which is printed on the electoral bond. Full stop. Irrespective of whether the unique identification number, which is not discernible to the naked eye, will enable the disclosure of details, the submissions of SBI in the application sufficiently indicate that the information which has been directed to be disclosed by the court is readily available. Next. In view of the above discussion, the miscellaneous application filed by SBI seeking an extension of time for the disclosure of details of the purchase and redemption of electoral bonds until 30 June 2024 is dismissed. Full stop. SBI is directed to disclose the details by the close of the business hours, 12 March 2024. Full stop. As regards the ECI, we direct that ECI shall compile the information and publish the details in its official website no later than by
7 days.
1 week. By 15 March, by 5 p.m. on 15 March 2024. Full stop. During the pendency of the proceedings, before the Constitution Bench, ECI had, in compliance with the interim orders passed by this court, filed its statements which have been maintained in the custody of the court. Full stop. Copies of the statements which were filed by ECI before this court would be maintained in the office of the ECI. Full stop. ECI shall publish the details of the information which was supplied to this court in pursuance of the interim orders on its website. Full stop. The miscellaneous application the SBI shall file an affidavit of its chairman and managing director upon compliance with the directions which have been issued above. Stop. While we are not inclined to exercise the contempt jurisdiction at this stage, bearing in mind the application which was submitted for extension of time, we place SBI on notice that this court may be inclined to proceed against it for willful disobedience of the judgment if SBI does not comply with the directions of this court as set out in its judgment dated 15 February 2024 by the timelines indicated in this order. Full stop. The miscellaneous application for extension of time shall accordingly stand dismissed. Contempt petitions shall stand disposed of at this stage in the above terms.
My lord, I just want to say one thing, my lord, because I don't want tomorrow to be again at the end of Mr. Prashant Bhushan's contempt. Your lordships have said disclose B and disclose C, the directions. We will disclose both of that. That is easy. Correlating the purchase with the beneficiary is not something which we are required to do. Then it's easy.
When my lord, the Chief Justice declared the order, it is very clear. There is no scope for any confusion in what is dictated in the court.
Lordship.
We are grateful.
Lordship, one other diary number, which is the contempt of matter related, diary number 11296. Lordship, please stand.